Hi, how you doing? It's the first time when I do this live stream setup. I did it differently last time, so hopefully the audio is fine. Let me know if you can hear me okay. It should work, hopefully. Today, I would like us to talk about state of software engineering. And this is in particular a report that was published by Hired, and that has a lot of cool information. So I think that will be an interesting thing for us to look at and see if we agree or disagree with their findings, with what stuff are in the report. Before we get to that, just let me know how you're doing. How are things for you? Okay. Okay, so I guess the reason why I decided to go with this topic today, one of my most viewed videos and that has the most questions, actually the most activity, it's actually a video that I did, software engineering salaries or something like that in US, and I think it was London as well, and Canada. Yeah, Canada, and I think Paris was also included there. So it was a few countries in Europe, Canada, and the United States. And recently, Hired posted another report. So the video that I did, that I mentioned, that is the most viewed video that I had, was based on the information from the report of Hired. And Hired, like a month or two ago, posted the state of software engineering report, which has a lot of interesting topics. Initially, I was thinking to make it an actually legit video, like the video with top salaries for software engineers. However, I thought that I like the interaction better when people get connected, they ask questions right away, just kind of have a conversation going on. So if you are curious about that, just let me know, give it a thumbs up, and yeah, just say hi. Supreth, hello, hi, how are you doing? Where are you from? Meantime, we get people joining. We will. This report has information such what are the most in-demand software engineering roles. Hi, greetings from India. Well, thank you, welcome. I hope everything is fine in India. The world now, it's a little bit Bangalore, India. Never been to India, but I heard a lot of good feedback about it's a great place to visit. So, what I was saying that this report this report has a lot of information. And might take a lot of time to go over it, but I would like to focus today on the top 4 kind of questions that they address that I believe they're really, really good to talk about. And those are in particular demand growth for software engineering roles, and they have the comparison between 2018 and 2019, so how the demand for those roles changed from 2018 to 2019. Hi, Professor Finzer from Florida. Nice to see you here. I hope you're doing well. Next thing that this report that we will talk about in this report is the salary trends from top software engineer roles by area, and that is in comparison between 2019 and 2020. Most in-demand coding skills, or not coding skills, my apologies, coding languages, and as well as the most used programming languages. So without further ado, let's get started. So I've probably heard about Hired. Hired is a company that it's Well, it's kind of, I think it's self-explanatory. They are, I would say, if I were to simply describe them, they are kind of a recruiting company where you create a profile, like I said, like in my case, let's say if I'm looking for a job as a software developer, I'm creating a profile describing everything, all my skills, my experiences, what I'm looking for. And I believe one of their kind of strong suits is that you are specifying the salary ranges that you are willing to work with. So I think that's their kind of niche, and I haven't used them much, and it's not that I'm sponsored by them or anything like that. It's just the reports that they are publishing, they are really interesting for me. So hopefully you will find this useful as well as we go through this. So here we are the hottest jobs in software engineering. So year over year, the roles are changing, right? So from what I noticed, that from 2018 to 2019, the highest increase rate or the percentage growth is AR and VR engineer. And if we were to look at what was in 2018, here's a star which kind of basically represents that this was not anywhere at the top of the list. So the star represents that it was really, really low. So in comparison with the last year, AR and VR grew really, really high. Demand for that is really high. And in particular, there are companies such as Sephora or furniture retail like Wayfair that are looking for this type of software engineer, in this case AR and VR, right? The gaming engineers, like 146%, it increased from last year. Computer vision engineers, kind of the same. Search engineer, 137. Honestly, looking at this, I'm surprised that there are so many different kind of niches or different roles of software engineering. So that's really cool. Are you surprised at all by this number of roles? I'm just curious. I was like, for me, it was just a few of them, but looking at this list, I see that they grow every time I'm checking something, every time I'm researching something. Machine learning engineering is like 89% grew from last year. Security engineers, 49%. Embedded engineer, like it was not high on the list, so it's kind of a star. Data engineer, 45%. So there are 45 more percentage of roles needed to be filled by this. Okay, do you think the AR and VR due to web AR and VR on web being more persuasive, or I cannot talk today, sorry, it's Friday, or sorry, Saturday evening and I cannot talk, or are we talking about native? To be honest, I really don't know. I have no idea. Maybe so if we were to look at Wayfair, I don't think I checked their area, their site there, and I didn't spell them right. So basically, why I don't want that, and I don't want that. So maybe it's now. I'm really not sure, honestly. Maybe it's both. And thinking of Sephora, what kind of VR or AR would Sephora want? Kind of right now, I'm not sure. No idea is coming up to mind, but it's a really good question. Front end engineer, 17%. So I thought that kind of front end engineers are really, really kind of popular and really well spread across the nation, let's say that. My words are kind of weak today. Back end engineers, 17%. So back end and front end are kind of the same. Blockchain engineers, 9%. So last year, I believe the hottest was blockchain engineers. So the demand increased by 517%. So the demand is still growing. So it increased only by 9%. So it's still growing. Mobile engineering, full stack engineer, 5%. So if we were to look at key takeaways, the gaming engineers is 146% increase since 2019. Security engineers remain to be high for 2019 with a growth of 49%. and a little bit slower than the last year, right? Front end and back end engineers are continuing to stay steady, regardless of what's coming up, right? And on tech trends, front end and back end engineers staying relevant. That's kind of it. So, are you surprised by this? Like the demand on those specific areas or not? And also, depending on where are you located, is that kind of, from what, to your best of knowledge, is that a representation for your area? Professor Feinzer, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Gaming will probably skyrocket even more because of this pandemic. So probably yes. I think more of these areas will actually grow. Like if we're to think about now more and more technology is needed that will facilitate this being remote. If we're to think about education, right? Because the schools were closed, kids needed to learn. So having ability to learn online, the platforms that will enable everybody to learn, the demand for that will increase. If we talk about medicine, right? Virtual medicine, like we already have, I think it's WebMed. Which one do I use? I don't remember. I don't remember which one I'm using, but having medicine, like talking with a doctor using a mobile app or a web camera or a website or something like that, right? Being able to do that will increase. And also, like, even for the sites, like state government sites, like for the unemployment sites, the stress that it's going through right now, those sites it's massive. So I assume that all of those will go up. So surprising that embedded engineering are not growing. This is an indication that IoT might not be big in the US. How is it in London? Is it big enough? Or like, I mean, I know that this is an area that you like. You would think that large manufacturing companies, including automotive, will want embedded engineers. True. Actually, yes. I think, like, a few days ago, I got an email from Volkswagen offering me to interview with them, and they were looking for cloud solution engineers or something like that. So I think they're moving towards that area, but again, I'm not sure. But for a few years, IoT was so hot and so popular, and it's less and less popular right now. So yes, but not in the cloud architecture and data compression engineers, heavy on mathematics. Not game developers, Blade, Shadow, Paperspace, or Stadia. You know a lot about gaming engineering. I am not really familiar with that. It's kind of I stayed away from it. Okay, so let's look at companies are keeping pay competitive. So looking at the salary trends for top software engineering roles, comparison between 2019 and 2020. The highest paid role is search engineers, right? So I assume search engines and so on. So in 2019, the average salary for search engineers was around $157,000, and this year it increased by 5%, and it's $165,000 in San Francisco area. So if we were to look at these numbers, NLP engineer, honestly, I don't know what's an NLP engineer. Okay, Google, what is NLP engineer?
On the website Emmers.com, they say, one highly sought-after engineering role at major tech companies today is the natural language processing, or NLP.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, Google, stop. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, like even I asked Google what is that, and actually that's the natural language processing. That's kind of embarrassing, but yeah, it increased by 6% comparison with last year. Security engineers 5%. So we saw that there's demand for security engineers, so the roles are there, and it increased by 5%. Machine learning and the salary increased by 6%. Blockchain engineers 5%. Computer vision engineer. Looks like there is nothing to compare with last year, so it's 161 right now, thousand. Gaming engineer, 11%. So we just spoke about gaming engineers. Looks like the salary is going up for sure, so it's 11% from all of this. The gaming engineers got the highest raise. Data engineer 6%, back-end engineers 5%, embedded engineers only 3%. So again, I don't know, like we just talked about embedded engineers, right? Their increase is only 3%, and the demand for them is not that high. So I don't know if that's an indication, or it can be that it's again for the data number or the studies, the people who participate in the study. It's just represent this data is representing of those people. I know it was a massive number of people who participated in this report and companies, but it might be just a representation of those people, right? So it might not really be the case. I'm not sure. So that's the San Francisco area. So if we were to look at New York, back-end engineers are at the top, 7% increase. Full stack engineers 7% increase. Mobile engineers 5% increase. Data engineer 5%. Machine learning 13% over there. So apparently New York is really hot right now for machine learning. So I don't know why they have two machine learnings there. I don't understand it. It's kind of one is 13% and the other one is 1%. So I'm not sure how to interpret that data. Front end engineers 7%, search engineers 5%, security engineers 9%. So that's for New York. So if just looking at this, back end and full stack engineers, mobile engineering, data engineering is pretty hot there. Front end engineers not really. It is actually at the top, kind of 7%. The same increase. It's just it's paid a little bit less. Search engineers got less increase in New York. And let's see Toronto. Machine learning engineer 7%. Data engineer 21%. Wow, that's definitely something happened in Toronto that they have. They started to appreciate more data engineers. NLP engineers, now I know what's NLP. 1%, only 1%. Search engineer, 30%. So yeah, this is a huge bump for search engineers. So they were definitely underappreciated last year. Embedded engineers, 7%. So here, it looks like in Toronto, they are really started to have an increase in that salary. Security engineers 5%, back end 6%. Looks like this is kind of surprising to me. Blockchain engineers, they have a decrease. How can you have a decrease? I'm not sure how you can have a decrease in salary, but maybe the positions are kind of the new hiring positions are less. The salary, like the starting point is less probably. Mobile engineers 11%, full stack engineers 6%. So ML first one, AlgoLogic, ML2 applications. How did you figure out that? It's like I don't see the difference between them. Okay. Let's see London. It's your area, so you are the expert now. You will tell us if you're right, Sash? Shah. Again, my apologies. I'm not pronouncing names correctly, so my apologies if I do that. Look at this. AR and VR engineers, it increased. It's probably a new entry, and it's probably the highest. If you look, yes, it's the highest, 82K. So, Shah, do you know what's going on in London regarding AR and VR with engineers? Looks like that's something is happening there, because that's the hottest right now that it looks like. Embedded engineers 15% increase, blockchain 18%, computer vision engineers, kind of which relates to that. gaming engineers 25%, security engineers 17%. So looking at this, looks like the hottest is gaming engineering in London. I mean, those positions started to be more paid, right? VR and computer vision, it's really high. So yeah, so if we were to look at their key takeaways, so in 2019, average salaries for top engineers roles went up by nearly 13% in London. So just looking at this, looks like it's a good place to be in software engineering in London, because the salary started to go up by 13%, 7% in Toronto, 7% in New York, and 6% in San Francisco. So definitely London, it should be an example for everybody else. Okay, so lots of media companies here and hospitals are trialing AR here in London. Okay, so that's why. Ads now have AR companies in Ocean Labs. Okay, see Ocean Labs. I heard of them. Ocean Labs. I think. Let's see if I think about that. The correct. Okay. I don't think that's the correct one, but I'll look into it later on. But thank you for the info. Okay, next, what is the key takeaway? Another one. Search engineers should consider moving north, as salaries for that role in Toronto increased by nearly 30%. So yeah, so if you're a search engineer and you want to get a bump in salary, should definitely go to Toronto. And if you are in AR, VR, you might want to move to San Francisco, or as we see, it's London also a place to go as well. Okay, is this, anything of this comes as a surprise to anybody? Bleepar, again, something new that I'm learning. Mediacom. COBOL, yeah, so there's now demand for legacy languages like COBOL. Yep. Do you think such demand will be sustained in the future? From just reading a while ago that some companies are really afraid of moving, like if they are on COBOL, they don't want to, it's either too expensive or they don't want to run the risk of moving to something like the unemployment side. Somebody told me that it's actually on one of the states, I don't know, maybe all of them, maybe just one, it's actually the application, the website, all of it, kind of all the application altogether, the ecosystem, everything, it's written with COBOL, and it was under a lot of stress right now. So if you know COBOL, you don't have a lot of places to go to work with that skill. However, because there are not so many people with those skills, the salary for those people are higher, right? So definitely being specialized in that has its advantages, because you kind of have a security that you'll definitely find something as long as you're really good at that. You really are an expert in that. But the kind of the downside of it, if you specialize in that, since it's not that hot of a language anymore, you are run into a risk that it might be discontinued, or it's not easy to find a job that is using that. So yeah, I heard that there's like, I don't remember which language it was, but there was one job posting with a ridiculously really high salary. I think it was for COBOL, and it was like, oh my god, like for my first impression was like, it's such an old, outdated language, but the salary was so high that it kind of I was actually remember walking with my colleagues on the trail at lunch, and we were talking about that. So it made sense at some point. So at some level, if I think if the demand will sustain in the future, probably yes. If the companies that are currently skeptical of moving to something else for many different reasons, I think it will stay like that. The BBC iPlayer backend was coded in Perl, likely to ensure the team members get paid high. That's the rumor. Have you encountered the case where the engineering lead opted for a particular less known? No, I don't. Again, from my experience, I worked only at one company with people that I spoke with. Even the companies that I know, somebody was on Cobalt. They actually transitioned to something newer. I think they went to, I don't recall what they went, but they did actually took the risk and transition. The company where I worked, originally the software was written in PLC, no, PL1, my apologies, on PL1. And somewhere at the beginning of the 2000, the decision was to translate everything into C#. So there are a lot of companies like that are thinking of transitioning or not. And for the company where I worked, that was an expensive project, but it was well worth it. We, in our sister companies, there was a financial company that I think they were, I don't remember what they were on. Were they on Fortran? I doubt it. Or Cobalt or something other old languages, and they really wanted to transition to a different language, to translate everything to a more modern language, and the cost for them was not worth it. So the decision was for now not to get translated. So it's at the end of the day, it's kind of a business decision. It's like you think about what is best for the company, right? Languages or framework to ensure high salary. So Shah, what do you mean by that? Like, what are languages or frameworks to ensure high salary in the future? Especially from future maintenance work. Probably, if I understand this correctly, it's a language that will allow to work, that doesn't push you into a specific niche, right? If we were to think about something that is app development, let's say Android development, right? You can be an excellent Android developer, but that's its particular your niche. And if you know to program in that language that you're programming, you are specific for that. And there are a few languages that have this advantage of being able to be in different areas if you want. Let's say if you want to do C#, right? That's the one that I'm most familiar with. You can do gaming development there. You can do gaming development, you can do app development, you can do web development with that. Obviously, you will have to have a front end, something there, maybe a TypeScript or something like that. So you have more room there. So okay, so hopefully that answered the question. Okay, let's look at the hottest coding languages. On the topic of languages, we talked about that kind of are being forgotten or deprecated soon. And let's see what are the hottest. Okay, so the Professor Frenzer, my area is very big on niche tech stacks. Yeah, they're like right now I'm learning JavaScript, and I'm thinking it's like, in my opinion, it's so web development specific that I don't know what else can you do with it. Like right now, nothing comes to mind. So maybe as I progress with it, I get more comfortable with it. I can see what is done. But yeah, like, and kind of the beauty of software engineering, right? You can adapt, right? If you're able to program in one language, you can continue, you can pick up another language easily if it's kind of similar. You have to learn a little bit, but the principles are kind of the same, right? So they're kind of having a niche sometimes is good because you're really becoming really good in that specific thing, but there's a risk that if that's not hot and trendy tomorrow, what are you going to do? You can really, if you're quick, you will study something, right? And you will move to something else. Get a microbit. JS can be used to program the controller. Huh. Do you think about it? Great suggestion. Have you tried something like that? Okay, so the hottest coding languages. So let's see. Looks like the most in-demand coding language across the globe, like no matter where you are, Go is the hottest. So I don't know honestly why, but it starts to be to look like more and more people like it. If before Python was kind of at the top, looks like Go now is the leading in-demand language. So what do you think? Why is that? Is it because it's particular to a well-known company, or it's a different reason? Okay, so Professor Finzer, like Arduino. Okay. Hello, I'm new to the stream. How are you doing? Well, welcome. I'm new to streaming as well, so I'm kind of trying to do a decent stream. Hopefully, it will become better and easier as we go. But yeah, feel free to join the conversation and participate. Okay, so Shah. Yes, love microbit. Great for playing with JS or C# or C or Python, like an Uno. Okay, so it sounds like you are playing with multiple languages. Which one is your favorite? Professor, never tried programming one. It's a lot of fun. A while ago, when I was volunteering with ChickTech, we were doing events for high school girls, and we had a weekend where we did a lot of projects with Arduino. And I remember that we've done humidity sensor, like you have a plant and it will notify you when it needs to be watered. That was so much fun. I like just doing that. It was not complicated, but it was so much fun. So having this kind of projects, that's awesome. So Python and JS, you can use it anywhere. Vanilla always, no frameworks. Good to know, because the part, like all the time that I was hearing about JavaScript, it was like, oh, there's a new framework and you have to keep up with all of them. And now I'm surprised that they say vanilla always, no frameworks. That's kind of new to me. And then I'm glad that I'm learning Python and JS. It's honestly from C#, moving from C# to JS feels weird a little bit. At the same time, I see its beautiful sides, its advantages, and the same disadvantages. And I'm not sure which one I like so far, but it looks like Scala is the next one after Go. Ruby is the next one. So what I wanted to say about this one is that these are the number of interviews were requested for candidates, right? So that doesn't really mean that that probably that person will end up engineering in that language. That's at least my assumption, right? But it's kind of a top on their list. So Go was at the top, Scala, Ruby 8.2%, TypeScript 7.9%. I heard TypeScript is really good. It's kind of a better way of doing JavaScript. Personally, I have been using TypeScript for some of my most recent projects. Yeah, I heard a lot of good things about TypeScript, and especially it was a comment that if you're coming from a background with C# or something like that that is strongly typed, JavaScript might seem weird initially, so a potential suggestion is to do TypeScript. Professor Finder, I hardly know more React than vanilla JS. I could learn JS better, but I mostly use Java. Or do you need additional library? That's a good question. So does it do you know if TypeScript it works across all browser, or do you need additional overhead with the big library? I think from my recollection, I think it doesn't need anything like specific. TypeScript was a hot topic during Build conference last year, so it was a lot of conversations and a lot of topics on that one. But I don't remember a lot about it. I haven't tried it. Okay, it looks like after TypeScript is Kotlin, Object-C, JavaScript, it's kind of somewhere in the middle, Swift, PHP, Java, HTML, Python. I'm kind of surprised that Python is kind of toward the lower end of the list because it's one of the most kind of loved languages. C++, it's higher than C#. That's kind of a surprise. Or actually it's not higher, it's 5.4 actually percent. So that bar seems to me like they are different sizes, but the percentage is the same. So that doesn't make sense. But I believe C++ is for the gaming part. What do you think? Is the C++ for gaming? R here, C, right? R is really low. Does any of this come as a surprise to you? And during the last streams, like last week or the week before, somebody really strongly recommended Go. Okay, so I do have a soft spot for PHP, even though there is a stigma online bullying in the industry about PHP. It's an awful language which has been improved greatly. Any of you bullied online for language? I heard that the stigma of PHP like a while ago. I wanted to learn. I actually picked up a book and read it. And during like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when I was starting to be a software engineer or starting to learn to become a software engineer, PHP was kind of a dream of mine to learn. And then things kind of deviated and I never picked it up. But yes, I kind of noticed that PHP is really bullied right now. And honestly, I don't know, because I haven't tried it, and even if it's something bad there, I don't know why it has to be bullied like that. But R is for people in Toronto, the data engineers. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I think those are the Toronto people. Well, from my experience, Webpack is a useful tool for compiling to JavaScript that doesn't require very much additional files and lines and code, but the type checking is worth the effort for teams. That's the part that I mostly miss, is the type checking. It's like every time when we recently started to do what did we do this week? We did object-oriented programming, and for me it's just so weird to have this it's just so weird that not to specify what type it is, but I guess it's somebody actually loved it. For me is that I think like when you write small software, like small projects, it's easier to keep track and maintain, and it won't be so buggy. But if a software is massive, it's so, for me, I see it being such a dangerous thing to just allow to pass anything. Like if you need a number and you get something else, it's just I don't know. But yeah, I definitely, kind of the plan for me, I hope that I have energy left in me after the boot camp, because it's really a lot of hours. I hope that I will pick up machine learning probably, and if you have any good recommendations, a course or something like that for machine learning, please let me know. But I want to pick up machine learning, and I want to do TypeScript. I'm really interested in TypeScript. JavaScript for me was just a kind of a strategic move for me. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Estamos bien. ¿Cómo estás tú? Espero que estás bien. Si no me equivoco, estás en Oregon, Eugene, correct? Okay, strange that Julia is not mentioned. This might be embarrassing, but I haven't heard of Julia until last week. I don't remember where I was. I was browsing the internet, and I was like, oh, and I was thinking that why all the kind of the languages names have kind of a weird name, and here like there's a Julia, kind of a beautiful name for a language, and I looked at it, and it was, from just looking at that was a beautiful kind of a beautiful language. From what can it do, I didn't actually look at of syntax or anything like that, just kind of glanced over it. But yeah, it doesn't look like people or the companies that are using Hired or people who are uploading their profiles that they are anywhere in Julia. It might be that it's not as well known, or it's kind of, again, a specific niche. I don't know. Yeah, Julia is not mentioned. R is low. So I agree it's low, but are there any alternatives of doing what you need? Like what R allows you to do? Can you accomplish that with any of these languages, other languages? Probably not, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I agree. I think the second part of your statement is correct. It means that the data engineers are likely using web interfaces like Data Studio or Python. I believe it's more like they're using Python a lot. I think that's the case. So yeah, so let's look at the most commonly used programming languages for software engineers. So what we saw until now previously, it was what was the most in-demand interviews, right? So that doesn't mean that there are most jobs available for that language or anything like that. That was though just the interviews, right? Now these are the most used programming languages by software engineers. So at the very top is JavaScript. So apparently JavaScript is the most used, and that comes as a surprise to me. Python, 44%. No surprise for me. I think this Python is really versatile, and a lot of people love it. Java, same. HTML, same. TypeScript. I think my view of this, I think next year TypeScript will go up, way up. It just started to stand on its feet. I would expect it to go up. C++, 13%. Ruby, PHP, Go, 10%. So the most in demand programming language was for interviews was Go, and the most used here's Python, and Go is like just only 10%, right? C is 7, Scala is 5, Swift is 5, Kotlin is 4, Object-C is 2, and R is 2, and C# is not even here. So I assume I was in a specific niche. So yeah, that's kind of the report. There are a lot of other things in this report, like does experience matter? When I read this, it was kind of interesting for me that what I found interesting, it was that people who have experience from 4 to 6 years have, or 4 to 6 years of experience, 6 to 10 years of experience get more interview requests than people who have 10 and up years of experience. And that was kind of as a surprise. Just like the more experience you are, the better you are, right? So that's kind of why the demand will be lower. But in those cases, maybe the people are moving towards a different path, different role, maybe management, maybe something else. Yeah, and like most loved languages, Python, JavaScript, and Java. Least loved coding languages: Ruby, PHP, and C, Object-C. As you said, right? Kind of languages bullied, like least loved PHP, and I heard about Ruby as well. I don't know really why. And there are different other things here in this report, so if you want to check it out, feel free to do that. Another thing that I kind of looked at this. I can find it right now. Oh, this is kind of interesting. What technology or skills are you most interested in learning more? So looks like people are really interested in machine learning, so I kind of can relate to that. I was interested in learning it for a very long time. VR, AR, user experience, blockchain, security, mobile, search, gaming, hardware. For the second year in a row, there are the top 10-year career goals for software engineers: to continue building cool things, to become a technology leader, to be a product leader, to start their own company. So, yeah, can you pour some wine on the ground of the old VB devs? MS won't evolve this language anymore, pushing them to C#. I haven't had much exposure with Visual Basic other than, I think back when I was at university, I had something with Visual Basic I was learning, and honestly at that time I was learning Java as well, and I don't know why, I cannot remember why, but I didn't really enjoy Visual Basic at all. And so in order for me to kind of answer that, I should probably be more familiar at least with Visual Basic, and I'm not, so I don't know what are the comparison between those two, so it won't be a fair kind of thing for me to say. But from the perspective, okay, let's see what Visual Basic versus C#. So it's a general and modern object-oriented programming by Microsoft. Visual Basic is a Visual Basic Net, and it's an object-oriented programming language that is implemented on net frameworks. So I really don't know. I don't know how to answer that. So when people say they want to learn machine learning, do you think they mean building their own algorithms or using frameworks or APIs like TensorFlow? So in my case, I want to actually build my own algorithms. And once I learn to build my own, probably to play with like the Microsoft machine learning that they came up. I also learned about them. I learned about them, and actually they have a good platform of learning it. I think it was Microsoft Learn or something like that. So in my case, I definitely want to learn to do the algorithms myself. As of other people, it probably might be a combination of both. Go is super blazing fast comparison with C#. Interesting. I didn't know that. Where do you get all of this stats or all of this information? Have you tried it or you read it somewhere? Moes, Java for life. So I can tell you like Java. So I'm interested, from those who actually worked in Java and C#, which one do you like best? Okay, so let's do this. Let's kind of wrap up today's stream with the following. What is your goal for the next 5 years in software engineering? What are your, let's say, top 2 goals for the next 5 years? I have loads of free time, So how is that possible to be a software engineer and have loads of free time? And I guess if you wake up at 4 in the morning, yeah, definitely you have a lot of time. So for me, if we were to think about like what I asked, like what are your goals for the next 5 years, I will definitely want to continue to do something like more fun projects. Like I have a few ideas written down that I actually want to do and build from scratch and do more IoT things. I want to do a few things around the house. Like that's kind of more on the, my apologies, on the software engineering side, but it's more not on professional level. And another goal will be to become stronger in software engineering from different perspectives, like to know more languages. Like that's one of the goals why I'm learning other languages, to know more languages and know which one is better for specific areas. Like a lot of times when somebody will ask something, something, the only thing that I had to compare with, it was C#. The only thing I knew was C# or Java, right? And Java not as much because I stopped using it a while ago. But kind of the goal is for me to be more proficient in more programming languages and see which one I like best. Okay, so I have loads of, okay, I read that one. C# cause of IntelliSense and VS LO. But IntelliSense is so great. I love it. I like IntelliSense so much. And I got accustomed to it. I don't know if I will be able without it. Actually, I got accustomed to ReSharper because I actually had IntelliSense disabled and I was using ReSharper all the time. Wait, I need more time to answer the questions of my goal. Will you give me? Sure, go ahead. Like we'll be here for at least probably another 10 minutes. So yeah, definitely. I'm curious to hear what are your goals. What do you want to do? Goal: low-level programming all the way for me. Go deep in the niche that will never die. Good goal. I have done the engineering to product migration. How did that go? Need to dwell back into engineering. Yeah, I can tell that you are missing engineering, and that's kind of a lot of people probably they get into a point where they are moving to a different level. It is still related to software engineering, but it's not really purely like a pure software engineering, and they miss it a lot. And in those cases, they actually, because they are not software engineering that much at work, they're having their projects on the side, and that's kind of how they continue to kind of fulfill that gap, let's say that. So yeah, cool. Really good goals. How about you other guys? What are your goals? Come on, share. Don't be shy. Okay, so while people are writing what are their goals, let's see what are people listening to while they are programming. Looks like the top one is electric dance music. Rock and classic is top 3. Okay, so product is fun and relaxing but frustrating because you are not in the trenches and can't tell engineers how you would fix the problem because you are in the product. Yeah, true. There are, wherever you are, there are advantages and disadvantages. And depending on what you like best, what brings you most joy, for some people, product is more enjoyable versus software engineering or vice versa. So Professor Finzer, not sure really, maybe try entrepreneurship. Again, I cannot pronounce things. and go the startup route. Do you have an idea in mind already, or you're still exploring for ideas? Because entrepreneurship is it's cool, and at the beginning you have to do so many things. You're definitely learning so much, and you see where are your gaps, where are your strength, and where you grow, and it's just like amazing. So yeah, I'm sure if you put your mind to it and you really believe in the idea you want to go with, maybe at the beginning it will be challenging, but you will be really, really happy that you went with it. So, what kind of music do you listen to while you are programming? I, for once, listen to focus music, like chill out or something like that. Yes, I had that startup bug before and went through all the hardship, which is why I took a break from it. Well, yeah, that's probably the hard, like starting at the beginning is probably the hardest, and that's just what I believe. I never done it, so I don't know. It is difficult, definitely, and it takes a lot of patience, of dedication, of a lot of admirable properties like drive, grit, and so on, right? Okay, so we have a couple more minutes. I really appreciate the time you spent here with me. Hopefully it was as entertaining for you as it was for me, and hopefully it was not kind of annoying, my mispronunciations of words, or the fact that I was not able to read what you were writing correctly. That's when you're nervous, that happens. Now you can do it better. I agree with you, Shah, that now you can do it better. I wish you success. You have more experience now. Go make it happen. Power through. Definitely. Now you're more aware. Like if the first time when you did it, when you tried it, you had an idea in mind, more naive, let's say. Now you have a better general idea because you actually once done it and you kind of already know what to expect. Thank you for doing this. Suprath, learned a lot. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Part 2, I'm looking forward to making the internet more distributed by making more peer-to-peer application software. Interesting. So how are you planning to do that? And part 1, sorry, I didn't read part 1. It jumped on me. I'm not exactly sure what... Oh, I read it already. Have a good night, day, whatever you are. Well, it sounds like for Shah, it's just the beginning of the morning, so he will have a nice Sunday probably. And for us, I don't know where... India. We have people from India. I believe it's morning there as well. And yeah, thank you all of you. It was definitely nice to chat with you. It was interesting. And if there are any topics that you would like us to talk next time, feel free to drop them in the comments. It can be now or it can be later on after the video will be posted. And I will probably do another stream either next Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We'll see which day is probably best. Yeah, so I'm wishing you all the best, having a good rest of the weekend, and stay well and healthy. And looking forward to see you again and have a lovely conversation like just we had. Bye.